into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balance.
I can't hear you. Are you muted? Maybe it's on my end. Let me log out. Let me log back in.
Gracious. My bad. My bad.
There you go.
My bad. Okay.
There you go.
So let's start that again. This is what happens when you want to talk about virginity. You get flustered and you forget.
You get silenced.
Oh man. Okay, let's just start this again. Pretend like that didn't happen. And welcome. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station. AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Purchasers, JioSaavn, and more. I am Dr. Marissa, your hashtag positively opinionated host, and I am here celebrating 11 years. This is show number 972, but who's counting? And 583 consecutive weeks. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that when I'm silent, you are still tuned in. I see the eyeballs rolling. I do stream very real-time live, first thing every weekday morning. Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course my show home, which is YouTube channel. So please do go free subscribe there. And that way you can catch all my past shows and interviews with, let's see, Marion Ross was amazing. Happy Days Mom came on 94 with her son, Jim Meskimen. That was an amazing show. She came 89 into my Sunset Gower studio when I was there. But I'm glad that you're here. We have a hot topic today, literally. And as you can see from who's in with me in my studio, we have the good looking inside and out. Sam Works, my co-host on Thursdays for Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
Welcome to the show. So let's go right to breakfast. 8 specific things that we're grateful for. That's the drill. Dr. Wayne Dyer is one of my teachers. He says 5. I'm an overachiever. 8's a lucky number in Chinese. It's a homophone for good fortune. So that's where we're going to start. I am grateful that I have this platform to come at you with more hope and happiness. And I'm grateful for that for a long time now.
All right.
What are you grateful for, Sam?
I'm grateful for the holidays. I know 4th of July just came, just past us. And, a lot of people, they stress over work and just everything that's going on. So the holidays are a good time to just, leave work behind us for at least one day, and then get with the family and just relax. So that's what I got to do. I had a good time. It was great.
I'm grateful that I had a happy 2nd, happy 3rd, happy 4th. It was really my first time not doing a show and having 4 days off, not having to put an alarm on. And I'll tell you, the 5th day when I had to put an alarm on was a very interesting, wow. It's very easy to get into that, chill place, which is good. But it was a lot of fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure it's easy to get in, but hard to get out, out of that chill place.
Is it hard to get out? I am grateful that have I have a great schedule. I love 88% of everything that I do. And I've got some trips coming up. I've got some workshops coming up. You're all invited on Saturday to join Sam and I at my Asian brother's estate in Calabasas to learn more about finances and financial literacy and wealth. So I wanted to plug that before I forgot. Please do contact either one of us for a link so we can get you there on Saturday. So I'm grateful for the ability to help people and help myself with wealth.
Mm. Yeah, I'm honestly very grateful to meet you and John Shin. Um, After I came back from the first workshop, man, I was so excited. I had to tell everybody. I was like, hey, the next one that's coming up, you all got to come through. I know it's far, but it's so worth it, you know. And you got to make sure you bring a lot of paper because you're taking a lot of notes. There's a lot of things that you can learn that's so valuable, not in just in yourself, but in life in general, you know, like things that school doesn't teach you. So very grateful to go the first time, and I'm super excited to go this weekend. So
Well, we're happy to have you. I'm glad we're looking for it. We're not. It's just not for everybody. It's for people who really want to make the most out of this thing called life. And I definitely know that the gerbil sound is coming from your end because none of my other guests or co-hosts have me sounding like a gerbil in the background. So if you have this open in one of your windows or something, that might be it. I'm going to close my StreamYard here just in case it's on my end. Nope, I just closed it. I'm still there. So we'll see what's going on. Anyways, I am last gratitude. I am grateful that I finished decorating my new place. You can see I have let's see, I've done quite a bit of you know, and I have a nice backdrop. I'm going to put pins in all the places that I've been now, and I'm super happy to be settled in this new thing. And I love it when I press the elevator. I'm on the 8th floor, of course, and I didn't ask for it, so that's kind of cool. Sam, last gratitude.
the last thing I'm grateful for is, well, I mean, you know, there's so many, but anyways, my career that I have, I'm grateful that I have a career that I've got at such a young age that I can just work with for, you know, until I retire, you know, and hopefully like pass it down the line. Um, you know, some people, they year after year, you know, they go out and try to like find themselves, and maybe this isn't it, but this is definitely a part of me that I'm happy to express. So
All right, that sounded like an appreciation. That's what we're moving to. If you'd
I
like to
appreciate you.
add, a good segue. If you'd like to participate in having breakfast with Sam and I, it's taking a bite out of my gratitude sandwich. We're on the bottom of the bun because Sam likes it on the bottom. And these are 8 specific things that we appreciate about ourselves. He just started. I appreciate that I love playing with words, especially when there's a double or triple entendre. And I get to do that in a naughty way on Thursdays because we are headed into the weekend. That's the excuse that I'm using. But if you've just tuned in, it is Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5, streaming everywhere. The station that leaves no listener behind. Sam, what else do you appreciate about yourself?
You know, I appreciate all the love that not only that I receive, but that I give out as well. You know, it definitely, it's reciprocal, and there's just so much to go around, and you know, I'm just I appreciate that I'm able to do that. Some people, it's hard for them, you know, and for me, it's something that's, you know, easy to do. Yes.
I appreciate that. I appreciate. I put on my life jacket every morning with a silver lining. Why do I do that? Frankly, it just feels better. Sometimes it feels good to be pissed off, but not for a long time.
Mm.
So this is my discipline, and I'm sticking to it because it's working for me.
I appreciate that I'm very optimistic, and some people they get upset about it. Every time I say, "Hey, it's okay," they're like, "What? Like, how's it okay?" And it's hard for me to explain because if you see the cup half empty, then it's hard to convince someone that the cup's half full.
Yeah, the cup's always full. There's half air, half water. So that's my and it's really interesting what I say a lot. I have a new hashtag this last 6 months. It's hashtag I love my life.
Mm.
And some people really have a hard time with that. Like, don't say that. It makes me feel bad. And, it makes me not feel good. And, and I appreciate that how they're feeling in the sense that that's how they're feeling. But what you think of me is none of my business. And um, it's not, my intention is not to make you feel bad, but I'm hoping that it will motivate you to look at the things about your life that you love as well.
Mm.
Last one.
I appreciate that I'm always able to bounce back. You know, life has its ups and downs, and so do I. you know, and I appreciate I'm able to bounce back.
Awesome. I've heard about that. Now,
Nah.
thank you for joining Sam and I for breakfast. We're going to get to the topic now, but wanted to just appreciate y'all. I do see eyeballs in the studio. We'd love to interact with you. We do this live so that we can talk about things like virginity. So, yeah, eyeballs. I don't know. We actually started talking about this last week, and we said, "Wow, that's a good topic." So, in my intro, it says, "Have you watched the movie 40-Year-Old Virgin?" That was the only way I could safely say it. Well, we're talking about the ins and outs of virginity today with Sam. And I love being able to look at what Google has to say about this as well. But, Sam, what is your take on just the concept of virginity? One of the questions that I was pondering this morning was, would it even be a big deal if we did not have religion? Premarital sex, a big deal about, when did you lose your virginity? Would that even be a question if we weren't so tied into the influences of religion?
Yes, because sex is not always about religion. Now we have an echo. Wait, do
What
we
was
still have
that?
that? Do you still have an echo? I don't know. As soon as I started talking, there's an echo, but we're good now, right?
I didn't hear an echo on your end,
Okay.
but
Well, anyways, I
okay,
apologize for that one.
that's okay.
Yeah, no, definitely still a huge topic in life, even if you take religion out of it. Um, just religion just kind of like points things out in some aspects. Um, you know, talking about like diseases and pair bonding and all that stuff. And I know you heard me say that once before. Um, but it's still such a huge topic in life and very controversial. Actually, when we brought up the topic last week and when I found out we're going to be talking about it this week, I was like, man, I literally have two sides of it, right? There's the sides that I've always been told that I agree with, and then there is my personal and emotional side that I haven't really expressed yet because it's gonna make me sound like a dog. But we'll get into it. So, what does Google have to say about it? You're muted. I can't hear you.
I muted it to try to get the gerbil out, but thank you for letting me know quickly.
You're welcome.
I thought, anyways, okay. It's Oxford Dictionary says that it is the state of never having had sexual intercourse. And the example was he lost his virginity in college, which I think that's pretty dated. I think kids are losing their virginity in high school. I'm sad to hear that there's kids losing their virginity in middle school, which I think is way too early because you don't even know who you are. Not that you know who you are in high school. And then interesting in Webster Dictionary, or sorry, Wikipedia, it says virginity is a state of a person who's never engaged in sexual intercourse. The term virgin originally only referred to sexually inexperienced women, but has evolved to encompass a range of definitions as found in traditional, modern, and ethical concepts. So, isn't that interesting? It applied only to inexperienced women.
That is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So the reason why I tied it to religion when I first introduced the topic is I'm thinking of, gun laws, drug laws. There's countries that don't have those laws, and then those things aren't an issue, right? So I don't know if you've heard of those, why don't we do what Australia does about gun laws or marijuana laws? Or, there's that BS belief system that as soon as you make something wrong, then it becomes an issue, right? It becomes something to rail against or have rules against or to fight against or to be a protester of. So in places that aren't civilized, they don't have I'm thinking about indigenous cultures who don't have a thing saying a big deal about, losing your virginity. It's a natural passage, right, of an individual when, it's nothing to be embarrassed about or shamed about or have laws against. That's what I was thinking. Or brag about. I mean, it's an interesting concept to me that we have a movie called 40-Year-Old Virgin that is funny. Or we have this idea of chastity. We have this idea of, premarital sex, which is kind of, for a millennial, they might be saying, what the heck is that, right? Because, the whole sexual revolution from the 60s. Are we going through that now again? What does sex mean? What does losing your virginity mean? So I just, was thinking about all these things this morning.
Yeah, well, it's not premarital sex if you never get married, so.
Okay.
I just
I
heard
didn't think of that one. That's a good one.
I heard that a while ago, and I thought it was funny because he was a comedian, and it's just the way not that many people are getting married, So then that was kind of like the joke floating around. It's not premarital sex if you never get married. I was like, that's pretty good, pretty valid. But the real question is not when. Like, the real question is, when should you lose your virginity, right? Obviously, middle school is a no-go. Like, you really shouldn't. In today's society, high school, a lot of kids are losing it in high school. But then, judgmentally, you don't want to be that 40-year-old virgin as well. But you know what losing your virginity does do? Well, at least for me, and I wasn't bragging about it, but like subconsciously, it kind of like boosted my confidence, you know? I wasn't going around telling everybody I lost my virginity, but then, like, you know, I started walking differently, you know? And maybe it's just because, like, that's a piece of life that um, is something that you, like, want, quote unquote, like, level up to, you know? Like, you're supposed to be having sex when you get older. And then as a younger man that I was at the time, like, it kind of just stepped me up a little bit, you know? Subconsciously. I was not like, I'm not a virgin anymore, da da da. It wasn't like that. It was just I was more confident in myself being able to, you know, walk through the halls, I guess you can say.
So you're saying that there's some rite of passage or confidence booster when you have lost your virginity.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Okay. So this is interesting. Time Magazine. It is dated. I would love to see this. Am I muted again?
No, you're fine.
I would love to see this updated because it is dated 2015, I believe, but I still think it's super interesting, the statistics. Sorry, millennials, but despite your hookup apps, your parents were probably having more sex than you're having. Millennials aren't much more tolerant of premarital sex than earlier generations, but they tend to have slightly fewer partners than their parents did when they were, single. According to a new study released back then, over the last 8 years, acceptance of premarital sex has moved from a minority position to a majority position, with 58% of respondents in 2012 saying that they thought there was nothing wrong with sex before marriage, compared to 44% in 2004. So in a decade, we crossed that 50% line. I'd love to know what that number is now. According to a new study, over 33,000 people, let's see, 28% thought premarital sex was okay in 72, then 38, then 41. And now this is also the same of tolerance for gay. They used an old term, homosexuality, which is not used anymore. But back in the 70s, 11% believed that gay sex was not wrong. But in 2012, now 44%. I believe now it's probably, I should Google that and see that. So that there is definitely changes and shifts from BS belief systems about premarital sex. That is Time Magazine, and they do a lot of really good research. I don't know why the gerbil sound is worse today. I'm trying not to let it bother me. So the question is, what age do you think, in this day and age, would you say is the best time to cross that bridge? Is there an age, or if there isn't an age, what should an individual know and understand before they have sex for the first time?
If you're having sex with the right person,
What's right?
I mean, you don't want to. Okay, what's the reason of you losing your virginity, right? If you're just there to just get it over and done with, you know, what's the objective in line? If you, like, I want to say just lose your virginity to some stranger. I really wouldn't, you know? And I wouldn't say lose your virginity to someone with a huge age gap, you know? Like if they're like a lot older and stuff. Like I feel like there is a middle ground or a balance to everything. And when it comes to losing your virginity or, you know, just having sex, like, okay, imagine if this person, you got to be, okay, first of all, you got to be safe. That's number one, right? Who you're doing it with, where you're doing it, and how you're doing it. If you don't have any protection, especially your first time, man, I know people that had sex one time and now they have a kid. And I'm like, and they just did it because they thought it was going to be fun. Well, I'm sure it was. Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes, your first time's very short. You can't really enjoy it. But, you know.
It's short or small or little or what?
Slow down. Slow down. Okay, and here's another thing. The, entertainment industry, like that is like, that's putting false imagery in like these kids' heads. When I say kids, like younger people, because it is entertainment. It's not reality. And so like there's a high expectation nowadays, especially when it comes to the bedroom, that before any of this even happens, you already have that low self-esteem right off the bat, because now you have to compete with all these people that you're watching, and then you're comparing yourself to them, and you can't even enjoy yourself or perform the way you want to, because you have that subconscious, inconfidence, because you're watching all these other videos and stuff online.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to go on the record to say it's so important that if you're a parent, as much as it's super uncomfortable to talk about this stuff, as much as your kids are going to go, I don't want to hear it. Oh, mom, please. It's so important to talk about this, because if you don't talk about it, the people that are teaching your kids about sex for the first time, losing your virginity, what sex is good for, all of that is from two P's: peers and porn. And those are the two worst teachers that I know to be helping your child understand this very momentous, critical first in life. So I wasn't told anything. And as a result, I told my kids everything to the point where they're like, Mom, can we have one dinner without talking about virginity or vagina? It's I took it to an extreme, but I don't regret it, because they're very well adjusted when it comes to, what conditions are important. They may not follow that, but they know that for the first time, you want to know that person, because it will be imprinted in your consciousness for the rest of your life. The first time, whether you end up with them or not. Whoops. Was that a drop the mic?
Yeah.
Whether you do that or not, whether you end up together or not, the physical impact, the emotional impact, the mental impact, all of that is so important that you cannot treat it like it's not important. So, when are you ready? I say, if you did it, would you feel shame or regret afterwards? That's my question. If you say, I would be embarrassed, I would be ashamed, then don't do it. If you can say, I am ready to experience this next level of intimacy with the person that I'm with, go for it. That's my line in the bedroom stand.
Yeah. Well, you said the last part with someone, basically
Feel
someone Yeah, because there's different there's different types of sex out there, and like some guys, they feel like if they can inflict pain to the woman, that they're doing great. Like they're so uneducated and like selfish when it comes to the bed. It's like, you don't if you don't know how to it's weird. You can treat a woman, you know, going out, and you can also treat her right, like in the bed, you know. And I think that's also important because you're not there to hurt a woman. You know, you're there to feel good. You know, have a good time,
Pleasure.
pleasure,
Pleasure. Hmm.
bond. You know, like chemistry.
Hmm.
And yeah, some people they just don't get it. You know,
Yeah.
um, and the biggest thing, especially if you're going to be losing your virginity, is like communication. You know, with your partner or the person that you're doing it with. Just like having communication in any category, because especially if it's your first time, like taking it slow, you know, making sure everything's good, ready to go before anything happens. You know what I mean? Like, it's very important that you don't mess up because, like you said, you will remember it. You will remember your first time.
You
You
cannot
know,
unring that bell,
no,
is
you
how I
can't,
say.
and
Yeah,
that may affect all your future times that you have sex.
absolutely. The I pulled this up. What conditions are optimal for losing your virginity? And it's interesting. Uh, what came up first, literally, is how to lose your virginity without pain, and that's not something you're necessarily taught again. If you're not comfortable, I have a lot of teen listeners and watchers, so if that fits your category, and you're not comfortable talking to your parents about this, there's other, Healthline has it looks like talking about the literal impact of losing your virginity and physically. 27 things you should know before. Tips for losing. Oh no, I'm not crazy with that one. I never that one. BBC. What's the right age? Interesting. Let's look at that. The right age to lose your virginity. Having sex too soon is the biggest regret of young people losing their virginity, a survey of British sexual behaviors suggest. More than a third of women and a quarter of men in their teens and early 20s admitted it had not been the right time when they first had sex. People must be 16 or over to legally consent to sex. And there's polls that say that people may not be ready at that age. The one I pulled up before said the average age is 17. And I would have to agree. And what scares me is the statistics that show that kids in middle school are losing their virginities then, because you really don't have a sense of self. You don't have a sense of who I am. You don't have a sense of, how to respect yourself. And, I'm working on my second film right now, and really excited. I'm in that creative phase right now. We're about 2/3 done, and it's a provocative look at how racism and prejudice are developed. And one of the key reasons is when kids don't have a healthy sense of self, when they don't know who they are, they don't value who they are, they don't feel safe, they don't know what love or care is. For whatever reason, the way they're raised, they're susceptible for being led by the nose for any loud, dominant, controlling figure who can tell them that all whites are bad, or all blacks are bad, or all, that's objectification. And so the key thing that I think that the parallel here is, if you don't feel good about yourself, you should not be losing your virginity
Mm.
because you're going to imprint on that person like an animal, right? Like geese imprint on, they show studies, whoever birthed them or whoever's sitting on their egg, they'll think that that's the mother, father, dominant, whoever. So I think that if I met if I was talking to a teenager right now and they said to me, um, I'll ask them, why do you want to have sex? Why do you want to give this person the first time? And they say, because I love them. And I say, well, why do you love them? Because I feel complete when I'm with them. I'll say, then you're not ready, because no one can complete you. You can complete yourself, but no one else can give you that sense of completeness, because if that's true, you're a half a person.
Right. Because what happens when that person leaves you?
Well, and this is the problem with people who are having sex for the first time when they're not ready, is that you're not on solid ground. You're when it comes to relationships, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there a reason why you used your middle finger there?
No, not at all. Sorry.
If you're just tuned in and you're wondering what's going on in the studio today, it is a talk about virginity, a topic that not a lot of people tackle. And we are Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
my co-host on Thursdays, and we do talk about things that are sometimes not comfortable to talk about, and we want to give it to you straight, because I believe, this actually is a series that whose roots came from Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, which was my every last week of the month when I was on once a week, because I believe that a lot of the issues and the problems and the dis-ease we have with sexual behavior and our own sense of sexuality or desirability, there's the word I was looking for, stem from not talking about this stuff. We just, brush it under that, bathroom carpet, and we don't talk about it. As a result, we don't heal from it.
It's pretty solid. Because here's the thing. You're right. When sometimes people don't heal from it, and it can really affect them mentally, and it affects all the people around them. I know people who are like legitimately like sex addicts, and it's because they had it at such a young age that the feeling and the desire to have it, now it's like that's all they think about. And it's like it's sad, right? Because there's more than just sex in life. And like I always say sex is a lot, but it's not everything, right? Because you have to make sure that you have good sex with your partner. If you can't please your partner, just like what Terry Clyde said,
Clyde Terry.
Clyde Terry, then they'll just go find someone else, and that's just 88% of the truth there, and at the same time, if you're having too much sex, bad, right? Because now you start to use people as like a tool. It's no longer like a way to communicate. Like my ex, she was like the reason why I have sex, like she was just too much, but she told me like that's how she expresses herself. Like obviously she doesn't do that to anyone else except for her relationships, and so that's one way she can express herself without expressing herself the same way she expresses to everybody else. Which is kind of cool. I was like, I never heard of that before, but I've always done it when, like my dad always said, okay, first of all, don't sleep with someone. Don't lay your head down next to someone you don't trust, right? So if it's a one-night stand, first of all, you don't trust them, so you shouldn't be doing it in the first place, And there's just like so many factors in my life when it comes to having sex. Or when I lost my virginity, I was young and dumb. Don't ask me about it. But
I was going to ask you. That was my next question.
What was your next question? Exactly.
When did you lose your virginity? At what age and the circumstances? It's straight
Um,
talk. It's
you
straight
know
talk.
what? I will call you after the show. I'll tell you my age. But
Ah!
the the scenario was I'll tell you the scenario. So long story short, we're all gonna go hang out at this place, have a little bonfire. There's like a little tree house in the woods, whatever. It's kind of cool. And there's this girl that I always liked, and she was walking down the street, and I was telling my buddy, I was, oh man, like I liked her for so long. And then he was like, why don't you just invite her over? And I was like, no, but he did anyways. And I was like, okay, cool. So then her and I, we started talking, um, and then we started, drinking and having like liquid courage and, just doing our thing. And she's like, okay. And where we're at, she only lived like a couple blocks down. So she's like, I have to go home. And I was like, I'll walk you home. Right? It's late at night. You're by yourself. Like, you don't need to be walking by yourself at night. So I walked her home, and she was like, she saw I was tired and exhausted. And then she's like, you want to sleep over? I was like, yeah, sure. So then my intentions were to just go to sleep.
Snuggle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then like, just one thing led to another. And I didn't even know what was going down because I was tired.
Okay.
And
I think you knew exactly what was going down.
yeah, yeah. But my intentions were not to lose it that night, which is basically what I was trying to say.
Okay.
But was I and I was nervous at first, don't get me wrong, as everyone should be, losing their virginity the first time. But she when we played it safe, thank God I had a condom, because that's very important too, because you can people can have control themselves, but then there's like that pre-cum and all that stuff, and you don't have any control of that, and the last thing you want to do is get someone pregnant, first of all, or catch a disease, or just there's so many things like paired to it. um but she was not a virgin and I was.
Ah.
And so like to her it was just kind of like one night stand type stuff. And for me, I understood that after the fact, in the fact
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to go to sleep, and then one thing led to another. But that, and then after everything else happened, like, you know, that's the part too. If you're gonna lose your virginity to someone, understand the end game. Like, if you guys are in a relationship, great, you know what you guys want. But if you're some guy or some woman who's like a player, just going out there and just wanting to have pleasure, and you're gonna mess with someone who's about to lose their virginity when maybe they wanted to lose with somebody that they really liked, or just get out of their system, whatever the case may be, like, again, that can be a huge effect on themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure. I think that there's a really good series that I Never Have I Ever. Did you watch the
mm,
series on Netflix? And she's like wanting to lose her virginity and scared to do it, and I thought it was a wonderful the way that they approached that whole topic and her first time and all of that. It ended up she was with someone who it was their first time and it was not pretty.
mm,
So, but I love that they resolved that a little bit later without being a spoiler alert. But my first time was horrific. I mean, there's no other way to say it because um, partly because I grew up super religious. And so I couldn't, the only way that I could justify having done it, Christmas time party, too much alcohol, more so on his end than mine. Um, and then it was the only way I could answer that question, am I going to feel shame, right, or regret after? I was brought up that premarital sex means that you don't have sex until you're married. So if you've got that BS and then you have sex before you're married, what's the first thing you think? I'm going to marry him, right? Then I won't feel guilty about doing it. And it was not till college, first year college. And, I had a crush on him for a long time. I'm going to try something here. When it went away. I just muted your mic, honey, and there's no more gerbil. So it's definitely, we have to troubleshoot that. So that's good to know. So I can tell my story without being distracted. Now you can just look at Sam. He's easy on the eyes. So he's not talking right now. So you can look at his whole face, not just his mouth. Anyways, so I had that first time and it was very quick. And I had a crush on him. He was in my math class, and we had hung out beforehand and at the Christmas party. After the Christmas party had happened, I believe it was at his house. I hope it was at his house. And then I thought we were it. I thought we were together. I thought we would have a relationship because we did it, right? And the next, after the Christmas break, went back in class, left the class, and I was with his best friend, and I said, I think his name was Roger. And he said, oh, he's in there trying to get a date with the redhead. And I was stunned, bowled over, shocked. He came out, and I, said to him, without his best friend there, I said, so you're asking out another? And he's like, yeah. And I said, but I thought we were going out. And he goes, what would make you think that? And I said, because we slept together. And he said, oh, haven't you ever heard of casual sex? And I said, no. And he goes, welcome to college. That was my first time. So suffice it to say, I have hang-ups, about sex. What does sex mean? What does that, what is intimacy? I'm working all through that stuff now. Don't worry. I'm not like traumatized by it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. But at the same time, I say this as a coaching tip for young people who haven't had sex yet. I think there's a middle ground. I'm all about balance, from I'm never going to do it until I get married, which I think is also not necessarily the smartest thing to do, because it is an important part of a relationship. And if there's just no chemistry at all, or there's, something wrong with the connection, you better know it before you get married. On the other hand, to sample every single person before you get married is also not necessarily great. But the circumstances of the first time are so important. And I would say the ideal would be, you've been dating the person, you go out, you enjoy them, they enjoy you, you have a lot of fun together. 80% of the time, they do not drive you nuts. You don't drive them nuts. You have a great time. And you want to take that to the next level to see what it's going to be like having a relationship in bed or out of bed or whatever. And that is a good condition. That to me is the best condition, knowing that you're not going to die if you don't end up with that person long term. But this is just a chapter in your book of romance. That's my final word. And now you can talk without me sounding like a gerbil.
My final word is sex is important. Losing your virginity is even more important. And lose it to someone you know, not to some stranger. Don't make it a one night hookup stand or whatever like that. And like what Dr. Marissa said, if you're gonna be ashamed or if you're gonna regret it, don't do it. That's the last thing you want to do, you know. And just be safe. And honestly, we got like 2 minutes left. My dad gave us the man to man talk, and I went to school, and we had this conversation the other night. I went to school, and me and my buddies were laughing because my dad came in too late. He was like, "Dude, we already knew about all this like years ago, way before my dad gave us this talk, you know." And so it's an important conversation to have, but you got to make sure you do it before your kids get exposed. And
How old were you when your dad had that talk with you?
12.
12. So it was too late at 12. So
Yeah.
what age would you say is a good age to have that talk?
Maybe like going into middle school, going into it.
So 6, 7. So grade 6, you are how old? 11? 10? 10? Okay. So 10, 11. So 10, 11?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So there's a Sam's final word. If you're going to have that discussion about sex with your kids, start early. It's never too late to talk about. It's not birds and bees. It's about your heart, your mind, your ability to express yourself with your body, being comfortable with your body. Even, and this again is one of those topics you don't usually talk about, but I think is so important for women, especially women that don't know how to feel pleasure even without a man. I think that is one of the worst things to do for young girls, is to set them up to think that they are just a receptacle. Yeah. For men. And that, that's an antiquated BS belief system that's still out there. There's so many women who don't say left, right, harder, softer. They're afraid. I'm one of them. I would literally, pull them up by their ears because I was uncomfortable them giving me pleasure because I'm not used to that, comfortable with that, don't know how to do that. So that's the other reason why I had the sexual healing, because it's so important for women to value their own ability to have pleasure. And that's my final word. We are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today for Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
Remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. Please join us this Saturday. Go to drmarissa.life. Message us on social media. We'd love to have you this Saturday at John Shin's place for finance, wealth, and health. Now go and have the best day ever. I'll see you tomorrow.